Hello, this is Devon Slave Name Bankett, and today's subject is going to be how can African descent people be so intelligent and so dumb at the same time? I consider African descent people to be the most intelligent people on the planet, and that's not just based on theory, that's based on the evidence. For the African descent people who are not aware that we were the ones who built Kemet. Kemet is Egypt after the Greeks took over. Egypt is a Greek word. We built things that no one can duplicate. Even 5,000 years later, they cannot duplicate the things that we did. If you watch the History Channel, they will tell you that it was aliens because they don't want to give us the credit. If you go through your history, go through AI, go through the internet, and find all of the statues, especially the Sphinx, that they blew the nose and the lips off to deceive people, to make them think that the Egyptians that's there now with the lighter skin were the Egyptians that built the pyramids. The Egyptian pyramids were built by Africans. And if you are older than 50, you would remember on Christmas, on Moses, that they would play on Christmas, it would be Yul Brynner and Elizabeth Taylor. Yul Brynner as King Tut and Elizabeth Taylor as Nefertiti, Caucasian people. So they have attempted to hide this from us forever. Well, lo and behold, we have defied everything there is that they threw at us. The Greeks and the Persians took over Egypt, but it was very difficult because King Ramses was a bad dude. And Egypt reigned for for thousands and thousands of years. First civilization, first written language, first calendar, first clock, first electricity, first running water, first mathematics, everything. The Romans came over to Kemet to learn. They went into the libraries. They learned from the African people. They turned everything around and attempted to make us look bad. And the reason that they've done that is because they fear us. They know that we're the most resilient, strongest people on the planet. The question that I have for you, what does resistance do to the human body? Now, when I ask that question in person to people, these are the answers that I've received. Make it tired, make it weak, make it sore. No, it makes it stronger. And who are the most resilient people on this planet? We are. We have proven to the world that we went from slavery. They didn't want us in boxing. Jack Johnson in the 1800s became the heavyweight champion of the world. What do? They locked him up. They didn't want us in sports. We've taken over sports. They didn't want us as a quarterback. We've taken over that. They didn't want us in tennis. Arthur Ashe proved that, and the Williams sisters. They didn't, and the new girl. They didn't want us in golf. Tiger Woods did that. They didn't want us in politics. We got to the White House in 100 years from slavery. 100 years later, we were in the White House. They didn't want us in the Supreme Court. They didn't want us. They have attempted to prevent us from doing everything. And what have we done? We've defied every single rule. They didn't want us in NASCAR. What have we done? Bubba won the NASCAR. There's nothing that they will, if they crack the door, they know that we will take over. But this is what they had to do to us. They had to sell us garbage. They had to make us think that we were nothing and we came from slavery, and they have hidden the truth from us. And with that, that have made us very, very dumb. I was talking to someone the other day, and I'm not going to mention his name, and I told him about a project that I'm working on that will make so much money. It's ridiculous. And if you want to know about it, you'd have to sign an NDA, and I'll show you about it. I'm putting it together now. And the first thing this young brother said, he's 26 years old, he says, "Man, you're going to disappear." And I said, "Why would you say that?" He says, "Man, you can't do that." And that goes to show you, in a 26-year-old man's mind, He's been manipulated to believe that if you strive to make a lot of money, that the system will make you disappear. I've talked to so many people, they are so afraid of saying, I want to step out and do this, because psychologically something has made them think that they can't do certain things. Now, I know that it's very difficult, but we have proven to everyone, difficulty doesn't stop us. Madam C.J. Walker, the first African descent female millionaire, she lived in Thomas Jefferson's house. She bought his house. We have done some of the most phenomenal things, but what they've done by using propaganda and subliminal messages, they got our kids hooked on weed, cigarettes, alcohol, and ghettoism. They have allowed us to, they forced us subliminally to embrace ghettoism. Now, let me tell you how that happened. If you are a suppressor, and the suppressor will tell their oppressed to do certain things, once they are away from that oppression, they will rebel. So when they freed us, they said, you got to go to school. We gave them the finger. They said, you have to talk a certain way. We created Ebonics. You have to look a certain way. We start sagging our pants. So they knew that we would rebel from our oppressor because we never had time to heal. There was no healing process. We went from slavery to Jim Crow to so-called freedom, and today we're still not free. But if we learn one thing, that is to unify and understand how money works, it amazes me, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there are people, you give a basketball, football player a $50 million bonus. He's going to put it in whose bank? He's going to buy the cars from who? The homes from who? The jewelry from who? He's going to give that money right back. There's one athlete that will go into his safe and pull out $1 million and go to the Caucasian Man's Mall and show, I just spent $1 million. There are people who will buy these ginormous homes with 50 rooms. They use the restroom, the kitchen, the living room, and the bedroom. And there's 46 other rooms that they don't even see. They have homes that's so big they never even see 3/4 of the house, but they are conditioned to believe that you could buy class, so they go buy Bugattis and Rolls Royces and jet planes and airplanes and helicopters. There are celebrities that have, I know one that has 23 vacation houses. With Airbnb, they could just say, okay, let's just rent one. The upkeep on the house is just ridiculous because we don't know, well, we do know, but we don't do it. We don't save our money, put our money into our own neighborhoods and do things. We want to look like them and just splurge like crazy. Look at the house that Birdman used to have. The house is so huge, nobody won't even buy it because it was, how much money did he spend on that house? Look at the house that Holyfield used to have. So these guys, look at MC Hammer. Look at all these people that take this money, they make all this money and never ever are taught how to use money, how to go back into your neighborhoods like every other race in the world. There are people in this country that send all their money back to their country, to their families. We're here in this country and we take this money and we buy big homes, big cars, big jewelry, everything just to try to impress people. I remember my pastor used to say, you guys buy things you don't like. Do you buy things that you can't afford to impress people you don't like? Like I said, we're the smartest, dumbest people on this planet, that our brothers are walking around here smoking weed and think weed is like breathing air. You talk to these young brothers, say, well, why do you smoke weed? Man, I gotta have it. They've been conditioned to think that they gotta have it, but what they don't know is the cowboys gave the Indians the weed to get them high to take over their land. And that's what's happening. Those brain cells are being killed, the carcinogens are getting into the lungs, and they're killing, and it makes men impotent. So lo and behold, it's a game that they are playing, and we're falling into that trap. I think it's time for us to stop being dumb. Tell me what you think.